Friends, welcome to the final video, and you know what, I'm just going to address it straight away. It has come a little bit late, okay? So I was on this nice little flow of making like 1 to 2 videos a week. I made this series which, you know, helps particularly with just staying on track with things, and I had just gotten to the last video, which I'm going to be showing you today, where I use AI to basically power up different parts of my marketplace. And would you know it, I log in to my OpenAI developers account and it has been banned. I don't know why. Not just was my developers account banned, my ChatGPT account was banned, which meant I couldn't even look up how do I fix this, because I basically lost access to everything. Now, this is a story in and of itself, and I will make a video about it in the future. But the good news is it was all resolved. It was a mistake on OpenAI's end, and my entire account has been re-enabled. And so essentially what that led to is that there was a bit of a delay over the Christmas and New Year's period. But hey, we're here to wrap it up. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you 4 different workflows, or 4 different ways that I use OpenAI and Claude to power the Unicorn Factory. We're going to be going into some real simple things. So for example, how you can use user inputs to generate certain types of content on your site. And then we're going to be diving into some more fun experimental things that I'm doing right now. The first thing is going to be to build your own custom AI knowledge base, which will allow you to do things like automatically answer support tickets. I also have a little feature that I'm experimenting with right now that is not public, but that I'll talk about in this video, which is going to be about how you can use AI to recommend freelancers to clients that are using my site. So for example, someone will come to me and say, hey, I am looking for a Webflow developer from Auckland, New Zealand. And what my tool will do is it will run some magic in the background and then make free recommendations based on the specifics of their query. And I'm going to show you how to do all of that. Now, let's get into it. Okay, so the first AI feature that I have on the Unicorn Factory that I want to show you is the first feature that I really built, and I built it pretty much as soon as OpenAI released their API. And what this tool does is it helps clients post higher quality job listings. Now, the way it works is super simple and straightforward. The first step is to just confirm company details. This is going to be important because going forward, we're going to be using this information to create the job listing. And then there's a section where they can just tell us about your project. Now, the reason why I wanted to do it like this is simply because a lot of the clients that were posting jobs to the job board would just simply not put the time and effort in to write a high quality job listing. And as a result, freelancers wouldn't apply for jobs. So the way it works is you can just come in here, you can basically specify whatever it is that you want. I've got some examples down here just to make it simple, but if you say I'm looking for a creative content writer to craft blogs for our website, what it will do is it will look at, you know, who is the client, what does the client do, and so on, and it will then cater it around that. So you'd write something along the lines of familiar with Webflow and basic SEOs and that kind of stuff. Then, as soon as you do that, you can go through the process of specifying a few things. Now, these are the finer details that will allow us to make the actual job listing better. So you can say, hey, this is like ongoing support. I'm looking for someone who can kind of do it on the side. Hourly rate, I'm going to pay this much, and I want to get it started immediately. And then from here, you'll get a quick little summary. There's also another feature that I haven't even really touched on, where during the sign-up process, a client can basically specify, you know, how they prefer to hire people. So what their like priorities are. So, you know, you can choose for things between like, you know, speed over price or that kind of stuff. And so that's what these fields down here are. But then all we need to do is just click on generate listing, and then what will happen in the background is it will take all the information that was submitted and create our job listing. Now, this is what it looks like. You see we've got a title, we've got a description, and we've got a whole bunch of things like that. All you need to do then is, just edit whatever it is that you want to edit, and then you can just click on submit the listing, and that will then get sent to us for review. And that is pretty much all that is left to do. Now, how does this actually work behind the scenes? Now, the best way to start off with something like this, where you use user inputted values to generate content, is to actually just start off inside of ChatGPT to experiment with what the different prompts should be. But then the tool that I'm using for this is Glide, and it basically allows me to create the interface, which is, just multiple steps along the way in the journey. And then as soon as that is done, it basically takes all of the values that were submitted in this particular form, and it adds them into a prompt that then gets sent via Glide Workflows. Now, Glide Workflows is a somewhat new feature. They've got a whole bunch of really exciting, ways to trigger workflows, but just for this video or this specific example, I just want to show you how this one works. Basically, it's triggered when you click the generate AI listing part, and then what it will do is it will simply run through a series of prompts. So the first one is generate a title, and from here what it's doing is it's taking the value that is currently stored inside of the database, and it's saying, hey, take the summary, the summary of this particular job listing form, and then use that to create a title. And so you can see in here, and this is using Glide AI, so you can actually start using this without actually needing an OpenAI API key. You don't need to have a Claude API key. You can actually just start using Glide's internal AI from moment one, and it works in a very similar way to all the other AI tools like OpenAI or Claude. And then it's just a text generation prompt where I basically say, hey, craft an engaging and specific title. Then Glide also has what's called text to choice, which basically says, hey, specify a bunch of options. Okay, and so in this particular example, I'm using the category, and what I'm saying is, hey, read through this job listing, and now with this job listing, tell me which category this is, and then it will select the category and it will put it into a new field. Same thing here with selecting the skills, and this part of the prompt is responsible for me then later on notifying freelancers who have these particular skills attached to their profile. And then the last part is the actual generating of the actual job listing. And so a majority of the actual value comes from the quality of your prompt, and then it's just a matter of plugging this in. And that is essentially how I create my high quality job listings that clients can then post to our job board. Okay, so the next use case where I'm using AI quite a lot is support. Now, if you've watched any of my videos in the past, you'll know that, the little time that I do spend on the Unicorn Factory usually goes to support tickets. Now, I've got this admin portal that I created where I'll get all of my support tickets. Just for privacy purposes, I've just filtered out my own ones. But sometimes you'll get something along the lines of, hey, how can I change my membership? And then from there, you can do a bunch of things. For example, I have a record option, which is particularly handy on when you're on the go. So I'll get a message, and I can just open my phone and go, oh, you can't change your membership, you're locked in forever. But one of the AI features that I've added in this has become particularly useful is the Ask Knowledge Base feature. Now, the way that this works is I'll get an email, and then what I can do is I can just simply go ahead and click on Ask Knowledge Base, and what will happen is in the background I have a knowledge base with all of the information and all the answers, and it will basically determine, hey, what does this person want, and what does our knowledge base say about this particular thing. Now, this is tied to a make.com workflow. It usually takes a few moments. So what I'm going to do in the meantime is I'm just going to close this. But what I will show you is my knowledge base. Now, my knowledge base basically is a set of questions and answers. But let's say I want to answer this particular question. I'll jump in here and I'll say, hey, how do I change my membership? Blah, 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 blah. And then it basically says the answer that I would give it. Now, I can add more questions as I'm going. I can determine who receives the message. I can select the categories. And essentially, this is a living document. And whenever I add a new question and answer, what I can do is I can click on sync the knowledge base, and what it will do is it will essentially delete the old version of the knowledge base and then pull all of the latest information back in to the into OpenAI that I'm currently using in order to answer these questions. And then what happens is, let's see if this has already worked. No, it hasn't, so we'll just check out what happened there in a second. But then what happens is it can then basically source information inside of my knowledge base in order to generate a response. Okay, so it actually turns out it did work. It just hadn't synced back over into my admin portal because I've got a little bit more of a, relaxed setup when it comes to syncing data between the different platforms, but I can still show you how that particular workflow works. So first of all, it's started by a webhook being triggered. Now the webhook can be triggered from inside of Glide when someone clicks the button. You can also trigger it from inside of Airtable when a new record is created. Really, whatever it is that you want to do, whatever is part of your workflow. Then what happens is it will support it will get the support ticket, and you'll see here it's got my name, my email, the message that was sent, and then it goes through the different steps. So the first step is to retrieve the information from our knowledge base. Now, the way that you set up a knowledge base is by creating an assistant and then assigning files and documents and whatever it is that you need to that assistant, so that then when you make your API call to that assistant, it has all of that information that it can access. And so you can see here, there's my prompt where I say, hey, here's an email thread from a customer of Unicorn Factory, identify what they want and retrieve the best answer or the best option. And then what it will do is it will dynamically put the actual email content in here, and it will also add the name of the sender so that when I write a personalized response, it can kind of find it in there. Now, it did say there was an issue accessing the FAQ document. Can you please upload it? So that might just mean that I accidentally deleted it before. But essentially what would happen is once you do access it, it will retrieve the information and use that as the starting point. Now, I'm going to show you how to teach your GPT in just a second. But as soon as you have that, what you can do, so as soon as you've retrieved this answer, what you can do is you can next basically generate a support ticket inside of your app. And you can do things like say, hey, is this a low, medium, or high issue? Is the type of inquiry new, or does it exist? And so in the case that someone asks you a question that is not actually in your knowledge base, you can actually say, hey, this is new, and then you can go and take it down a different path, or you can set certain rules, for example, not to generate an automatic response until you have answered it. But yeah, you just go ahead, write your prompt, you specify the details. You can actually add the suggested response in here, but it will detect if it says something like, hey, there's an issue accessing the FAQ document, it will just simply not work. And then in the output, you'll be able to then see what the email response is that is generated. And then the final step is just to save it wherever it is that you need to save it. Now, in order for us to teach our knowledge base, we're actually going to have to set up a workflow that basically allows us to update our knowledge base. Now, the way that this works will very much depend on your use case. Now, if you have an Airtable specific way of doing things, what you can do is you can trigger your, knowledge base update workflow with a webhook. So in my case, in the app, it's when I click on sync knowledge base. So we click on sync knowledge base. By the way, the answer has been put in here, so for me to review. I always, with these tools, have a human in the loop system, which means I do still make sure that it's correct before it gets sent out. But then, yeah, just to circle back to this whole knowledge base thing, whenever you click on sync knowledge base, it basically fires the webhook that I just showed you. And then from there, I can pass through a URL parameter from whether or not it came through Airtable or it came through Glide. And then what it does is it basically retrieves the knowledge base. Alternatively, if we're going through Glide, it makes an API call to Glide to retrieve all of the records in a particular table. So it's kind of the same thing. Then you're going to have to make a few little steps in here. So first of all, we're going to have to take all of the individual records that are retrieved from our knowledge base table, and we need to put it into an array because that's the format that we're going to need it in order to upload the actual file to OpenAI. Then once we have our array that is generated in these steps here, what we want to do is we want to transform that to JSON format. Now, JSON format is just a coding language, so nothing to overthink here, but basically what we're doing is we're saying, hey, we've got our array, which, you know, are all of these, we've got all these different inputs, and then it basically creates an array with all of our different outputs, and then we're taking that array and we're turning it into JSON. So we're saying, hey, here's our array of objects, and then it turns it into something along these lines. Then once that is done, what we want to do is we want to upload our file, or like we want to upload a file to OpenAI. And so what I do is I just say, hey, I use the upload a file function inside of make.com. And from here, what I do is I just upload the JSON string, and I give it a file name of now, and the file name that I upload is dynamic, and I always put the date stamp in there because then I'll know what the most up-to-date FAQ is that was uploaded. And then as soon as it's uploaded in here, we just need to assign the file to the assistant. And then when you message, so the way we do it is we assign the file to a vector store, and that vector store is assigned to an assistant. So in roundabout way, what I'm saying is once the file is uploaded, we just need to assign it to the right assistant, because you might have multiple assistants and you might not want them to have access to the same type of information. And so upload file, assign to assistant, and then it will basically give you all the information in there. Okay, and so that is essentially that. Now, you can test whether or not this works by jumping into the OpenAI playground and just start asking specific questions. And so what I sometimes do is just put like little test questions in there where we'll have a very specific question to a very specific answer. For example, something like, what is Connor's favorite color? And then the answer that I'll put in there is blue, so that I know that it's not the LLM making a good guess as to what the answer could be, and it's actually specifically referencing my values in there. And so the file is uploaded, and as soon as you have that, then it should be pretty straightforward when it comes to actually answering questions that are in your knowledge base. Okay, and so now that we've fixed all of this, I actually found a little bug that I had to address. Let's try this again. So we're going to click on Ask Knowledge Base, and this is the process. So retrieves the message. Okay, so we've got our message and who it's from, and you can theoretically click this button many times. And then we're going through the step of retrieving the knowledge base. Now this part here will feel like it takes a little longer than like a standard GPT call, but obviously you only need to set this up once and it will take care of itself. But yeah, it's just basically going to do a retrieval, as it is called. But just to keep things simple, it basically means it's reading through the knowledge base before it provides an answer. Let's just wait a quick little second to see what happens. While we wait, actually, you can actually just test, by the way, if this works by just jumping into the playground for OpenAI and then in here just saying something like, how do I change my membership? You know, and it will tell you essentially that it is referencing a knowledge base based on the value, the little number 1 down here. It's basically the source indicator. But you can see here it takes a little bit of time. So let's see if it has already retrieved the information. So it did retrieve something. And then you can see, okay, how do I change it? You can change your plan whenever you want. Just head over to the membership section of your dashboard and make the desired changes. You can also pause your membership if you're currently not taking on any work or are on leave. Source. Boom. Okay, so retrieved the answer. Now, I went in here and I said, all right, you're a support email assistant. Here's the question. Here's the suggested answer. What output did you give us? And it said, hey, Connor, you can change your membership plan at any time by visiting the membership section of your dashboard. If needed, you also have the option to pause your membership if you are not currently taking on any work or are on leave. Feel free to reach out with further assistance. Urgency for me is low. The type of answer already exists, and so essentially you've created a system that automatically answers your emails. Now, with these things, I am going to say that it does require a bit of trial and error. You will have to play a little bit around with it, but you know, this is something that has really cut down like the time it takes me to actually write emails. It's also made it a lot easier for me to, you know, just document things, you know. So if, for example, I'm actually just going to give this as an example. I'm going to say, what do you know about Connor, the founder? And I'm going to remove this later on. I'm going to say, he is from New Zealand, but lives in Canada. His favorite color is blue. You can add resource links as well, so it will retrieve any links that you submit. But then we're going to go ahead, submit, we'll hit the sync the knowledge base. And this part does take a minute or so, but once it has run, it will allow you to basically start testing it immediately. So I'm just going to go back one last time. And I know I'm doing this over and over again. I just want to show you that it is actually kind of simple to just build a little interface where you can upload your standard operating procedures. And as soon as you have your standard operating procedures, you'll be good to go. So you can see here, it uploaded, all good. And now we can just say, hey, hi, what can you tell me about Connor? And this is not something that Chat GPT would know. So you can be sure that it is actually referencing information inside of your knowledge base. So you can see here, running a retrieval. It will take the latest information. There we go. And his favorite color is blue. Boom. And so, yeah, this is a very great use case to get started with immediately. Now, I've got one more big one that I want to show you, which is basically an AI recommendation engine for your marketplace. But for now, I actually just want to take you to something, show you just something that you should just start off with if you're just getting started in this. Retrieval systems are kind of, you know, there's a lot to it, you know, like you need to learn how to use custom assistants, all those kind of things. And it's not particularly difficult to get the hang of. However, if you're just getting started, I'd actually recommend, you know, creating a lot of like AI workflows that use, you know, content generation workflows, because those are hands down the best ones to get started with. And so one is, and this is a simple method that you can follow, is to take user input and then create content based on that. Now, for me, and you know, just for generating, you know, programmatic landing pages in general, the whole generating SEO content is kind of like a key thing. And so the way it works is that whenever a freelance on the Unicorn Factory is published, what it does is it retrieves all of the information from the freelancer, and then it runs a prompt where it says, hey, here's my input, here's the freelancer name, the job title, the location, the skills, and here's my prompt. And I want you to provide an SEO title and a meta description, and then I want you to pass that content, and I want you to store it in the SEO title and the SEO meta description section. And so you can do this for pretty much anything. So, I've got a workflow for improving someone's profile. So when someone, signs up and I approve them, but they've got a bunch of typos, that gets fixed. So you just go in here, you basically say, hey, here are the changes that I want to make. And especially if you have to do some formatting before information gets sent to, say, Webflow, for example, you might need to format the URL, you might need to format some aspects of the bio. Just go in here, put your prompt in, and it will generate that content for you. So really powerful stuff. It will increase the quality of the content on your site. What else? Let's just search for what else we have here, just in case. Search for Claude. I have a workflow for evaluating, applications. I'm not going to show you exactly what my prompt looks like for that, because then the system gets gamed. But basically think of it as you get an application, and because of the sheer amount of applications that I get, I need to make sure that, the way that I'm deciding whether or not someone gets approved is consistent. And so what I do is I've got a set of criteria as to how I really grade applicants. And it's based on things like the quality of their bio, or, their skill set. How cohesive is their skill set? How broad is their skill set? And it then scores them and basically gives me a recommendation based on that. Now, I will say that whilst I am leveraging AI to speed up my processes with things, I am still the human in the loop, which means that I still review everything. This is more just an assistant tool than it is a final decision-making tool. So when you think about using AI in your business, think of it in that context. But I think hands down, one of the best ways to get started with these particular types of workflows is to actually just use user-generated input to come up with your own output that you can then use, for different use cases. Now, let's dive into the last use case, which is my Freelancer Recommendation Engine. Okay, now I'm going to say straight off the bat, this solution here is more sus than the other ones I have. I'm still experimenting around with it, and this is not actually something that I have in production yet, but it does kind of show you how you can potentially leverage these tools to build pretty fancy features. And one of the tools is basically something that recommends certain talent, or in my case freelancers, to clients based on what it is that they query. Now this can be an in-app solution, this can be a solution when someone emails you, but again, the principles behind this are very similar to the example that I gave you before with my support knowledge base. So what I do here is I get all of the information of active freelancers on the Unicorn Factory, and I basically upload it to a vector store, which then is assigned to an assistant. Now, as soon as you have that in there, you have a whole bunch of information, and so you can kind of see what information I use, like the status, first name, last name, the about section, where they're from, those kind of things. And then once it's uploaded, I can then set up a workflow that basically allows me to respond to queries that I'll get from clients. And so a client might send me an email saying, hey, I am looking for a Webflow designer. And so what will happen is I actually trigger it with what's called a mail hook, which is essentially like a webhook, but instead of it being when a link gets clicked on the internet, it's when an email is received. And what it does is it basically retrieves the email. So it says, hey, I'm looking for a Webflow developer in Wellington or New Zealand. And then what will happen is it will go into the knowledge base where I have uploaded all the information, and it will essentially see, hey, what does this person want? what are the specific locations and what are the recommendations I can give. And so in this case, it says, hey, based on your request for a Webflow developer in Wellington or Auckland, we've got these people. And so what it will do is it will basically show me who the talent are. And look at that, a bunch of YouTubers, Nikolai and Finn. And then you can basically go ahead and craft an email response based on that. So it would say something along the lines of, hey, here's a recommended Webflow developer, blah, 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 blah. And it will then write the HTML email, and then it will just save it in your draft folders. Okay, so it's in the HTML, so you can't see it, but essentially it's a really neat way for, you know, clients to basically be like, hey, tell me who you recommend as a, you know, designer with a background in hospitality. And so you can then basically get all the information from your knowledge base and come up with something like this. Now, I am a little bit hesitant as of right now to use this in production, just because I haven't fully understand the logic behind how it retrieves information from the database, and I don't want to end up in a situation where people are getting recommended that shouldn't be recommended. But I am fine-tuning it, and it's a really neat way to basically leverage AI to make recommendations. Now, I know that there are a lot of big marketplaces out there that I follow that leverage something like this along these lines, and really the incredible thing about it is that you can implement similar systems with make.com, your own, you know, OpenAI or Claude API key, and you're pretty much good to. Now, I'm going to wrap things up here simply because I feel like this field just changes so fast that, you know, whatever I say now might be completely different in 3 months. But the best thing that you can do is to actually just start playing around with it. I feel the best way that I've really gotten the hang of some of the more advanced things is by getting the idea of the basics. And if you use ChatGPT, which if you're a person on the internet, I assume you are, and when I say ChatGPT, also includes all of the other options that are out there, you know, you'll understand how you communicate with an AI tool like that. And if you understand how to communicate with an AI tool like that, then you'll be able to translate that knowledge into setting up custom prompts using an integration like that. And that is really the starting point of it all. Now, I do want to sell you stuff before I go because, you know, bills and OpenAI things need to be paid. So let me quickly show you a fun little course that I created. So the course that I would recommend if you want to get a hang of all these things is called the Landing Page Engine. Now, what is the Landing Page Engine? So this is really the perfect introduction course for anyone who's just getting into no-code in general. I'm just going to show you my favorite no-code tools: Webflow, Airtable, Make, OpenAI, and a tool called Placid. And what I'm going to show you, and this has 9 lessons, and I think it is approximately 3-4 hours worth of content. But what I'm going to show you is how you can build dynamic landing pages in Webflow, how you can manage those dynamic landing pages in Airtable, and how you can then use different, you know, workflows inside of make.com to connect Webflow to Airtable, how you can then plug in OpenAI to generate the actual copy for your landing page, how you can do some SEO things with OpenAI, and how you can create open graph images. So this here is part of the MVMP Labs, which is my online community where I basically share tutorials. I share... No, that link doesn't work, so that's not good. But I share tutorials, I share templates, I share, you know, Webflow components that you can just copy and paste. We've got a community of founders where you can ask questions. And basically, if you're just looking for a way to, like, you know, speed up the process of learning this, you know, it might help. So I'm going to leave it here. I hope you found this useful. If there are any questions about this, even if you have criticism, even if you're like, this is nonsense, please let me know. Other than that, I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you back here for the next one. Bye.